My mother told me you brought another man to my house.
What? That's a lie. I didn't bring anyone.
I saw it with my own eyes.
You're both ganging up on me. This is ridiculous.
And the truth hurts, my dear.
Admit it now.
Never.
You're wrong.
My husband refused to believe me the night his own mother stood in our kitchen, pointed at me, and swore she had seen another man leaving our home while he was away at work. I am Claire Whitfield, a physical therapist who spent 5 years loving Grant Whitfield with everything I had. A faithful wife who never once broke a promise. But the moment his mother, Diane, spoke that lie out loud, I watched my husband's eyes change, and the man who vowed to stand beside me chose her word over mine. I begged him to hear me. I swore on everything that it was a lie, but all he said was, "How can my own mother be lying?" In that instant, my marriage, my home, and my name were ripped away over a man I had never met. But months later, the security footage my own husband installed would finally play, and it would reveal exactly who was lying. So why would his mother look her only son in the eyes and destroy his marriage? Who was the man she claimed to see leaving our home? And what did that footage capture that Diane prayed no one would ever see? Stay with me until the very end, because when that recording started to play, every single lie shattered in seconds. If this story touches your heart, don't forget to subscribe, drop a like, and share it with someone who believes the truth always finds its way into the light. The kitchen still smelled like the dinner I had cooked an hour before. Garlic, warm bread, the roasted chicken Grant loved. I had set the table for 3 because Diane always ate with us now. I remember the steam still rising from the plates when she walked in, folded her arms, and said it. I saw a man leave this house today, while my son was at work. The fork slipped out of my hand and hit the floor. I laughed at first because it was so strange, so impossible, that my brain refused to take it seriously. I looked at her and waited for the part where she smiled and said she was joking. That part never came. Her eyes were steady. Her voice did not shake. She said it again, slower this time, like she was carving each word into the air. A man, tall. He came out your front door and got into a gray car. I know what I saw, Claire. My whole body went cold. Not because it was true, but because of how sure she sounded. I had spent the entire day at the clinic. I had come home at 5, changed out of my scrubs, and started cooking. There had been no man. There had been no gray car. There had been no one in that house but me. I turned to Grant, certain he would defend me. He was my husband. 5 years. He knew me. He knew the way I loved him, the way I never even glanced at another man, the way I called him at lunch just to hear his voice. Surely he would look at his mother and say, "Mom, that doesn't make sense." But he didn't. He just stood there by the counter, his jaw tight, his eyes moving between us like a man watching 2 strangers argue. And in that silence, I felt the first crack open beneath my feet. "Grant," I said softly, "you know me. You know this isn't true." He didn't answer right away. That pause, that terrible, endless pause, told me everything before he even spoke. When his mother was in the room, my husband became a boy again. I had seen it 100 times in small ways. The way he agreed with her about paint colors he hated. The way he canceled our plans when she called. But I never imagined it would swallow something this big. Diane kept going, softer now, playing the wounded one. I didn't want to say anything. You think I wanted to be the one to break my son's heart? I prayed I was wrong, Claire. But I know what I saw. That was her trick. She wrapped the knife in kindness. She made herself the reluctant messenger instead of the accuser. And I watched it work on him in real time, watched his face shift from confusion to doubt, doubt to hurt, hurt to something colder. "Was there someone here?" he finally asked me. Not "Mom must be mistaken." Not "Claire would never." He asked me like the answer was actually in question. Like the woman he married for 5 years and the mother who had never once caught me in a lie were suddenly on equal ground, and he needed to weigh us. "No," I said. My voice broke on that one small word. "Grant, I swear to you on my life, there was no one. I came home from work. I cooked dinner. That's it. That's the whole day." Diane made a small sound, a sigh, a tsk, the sound of someone who pities a liar. Now she'll deny it. Of course she will. And Grant looked at me. really looked at me, and I saw the moment his trust tipped over. I saw it fall. Something in his eyes closed like a door. "How can my own mother be lying?" he said. I have replayed that sentence 1,000 times since. Not "why would you cheat?" Not even "how could you?" Just that. How can my own mother be lying? As if the only two possibilities in the world were that his mother was a liar or his wife was. And he had already decided which one was impossible. I felt my knees go weak. I gripped the edge of the counter to stay standing. The kitchen that had been warm and full of the smell of dinner suddenly felt like a courtroom. And I was the only one on trial. "Ask me anything," I said, the words tumbling out fast now, desperate. "Check my phone. Check the cameras. You installed cameras, Grant, right there on the porch. Pull them up. Show me this man. Show me the gray car. Please." For 1 second, one flicker of a second, I saw hesitation cross his face. The cameras. He had installed them months ago, after a break-in 2 streets over. I had forgotten about them until that very moment, and I threw them out like a lifeline because I knew they would show an empty driveway all day long. But before Grant could reach for his phone, Diane spoke again, quick and smooth. "Oh, those old things? They stopped working weeks ago. I saw the little light was off. Don't waste your time, honey." She said it so casually, so certain. And I remember thinking, in the middle of all that pain, one strange, sharp thought that I couldn't explain yet. How did she know the cameras weren't working? I filed it away. In that moment I was drowning, and it was just a splinter in the back of my mind. But it would matter. God, it would matter more than anything. Grant lowered his phone. He believed her. Of course he believed her. He always believed her. "I think you should stay somewhere else tonight," he said quietly, not even looking at me now. I can't do this right now, Claire. I need to think. Stay somewhere else. In my own home. The house I had painted, the garden I had planted, the walls that held 5 years of our life. He wanted me to leave, over a man who did not exist, on the word of a woman who had disliked me since the day I married her son. I looked at him one last time, waiting, hoping, praying he would change his mind. He didn't lift his eyes. So I made a choice right there. I would not beg. I would not fall to my knees and plead with a man who could look at 5 years of love and throw it away over a lie he never even checked. If my own husband could believe I was a stranger, then I would not humiliate myself trying to convince him I was his wife. I walked upstairs on shaking legs. I pulled a bag from the closet, the same bag we had taken on our honeymoon, and I packed it with trembling hands. A few shirts, my toothbrush, the little framed photo from our wedding day, the 2 of us laughing under the string lights. I don't know why I took it. Maybe to remember that it had been real, even if he had already forgotten. When I came back down, Diane was sitting at the table. My table, eating the dinner I had cooked. And she looked up at me with the faintest curl at the corner of her mouth. Not a full smile. Just enough for me to see it and not enough for anyone else to. That look told me the truth before I had a single shred of proof. She had won something tonight and she knew it. This was never about a man leaving our house. This was about getting me out of it. I carried my bag past my husband, who would not meet my eyes, and out the front door. The same door she claimed a stranger had walked through hours before. The night air was cold. My car sat alone in the empty driveway, the driveway that had held no gray car, no tall man, nothing but the truth she had painted over. I sat behind the wheel and I did not cry. Not yet. I looked up at the porch, at the small camera tucked under the eave, its little dark eye pointed right at the door. And I whispered to myself the question that would change everything. If those cameras are broken, how did Diane know? The first month away from that house felt like living underwater. Everything moved slower. Sounds came to me muffled, like the world was happening behind glass. I rented a small room across town, above a quiet bakery, and every morning the smell of fresh bread drifted up through the floorboards. It should have been comforting. Instead it reminded me of the kitchen I had lost, the dinners I would never cook in that house again. Before I go on, I want to ask you something from the bottom of my heart. My grandmother passed away last year, and before she did, she held my hand and told me she believed in me. She said her one last wish was to see me build something of my own and reach 6,000 people with my story. And my ex-husband, the same man in this story, once looked at me and said I would never make it to 6,000 subscribers. So if this story is moving you right now, please help me prove him wrong and honor my grandma's last wish. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and let's reach 6,000 together. Costs you nothing, but to me it means everything. Now let me tell you what happened after I left. The hardest part was not the empty room. It was the silence from everyone I thought loved me. Word spread fast, the way ugly words always do. Diane made sure of it. Within days, the whole family had heard her version. That Claire, sweet Claire, had been sneaking a man into the house behind Grant's back. That poor Diane had caught her. That she had bravely told her son the painful truth. Nobody called to ask my side. Nobody. My sister-in-law, Paige, who I had shopped with, laughed with, whose kids called me Aunt Claire. She stopped answering my texts. The last message I sent her sat there with 2 little check marks. Read and ignored. For 3 whole days before she finally replied with 6 cold words. I think you know what you did, but I didn't know, because I hadn't done anything. That's the part that broke me most. Not being punished for a crime. Being punished for a crime that never happened, by people who never once asked me if it was true. They chose the easy story, the juicy one, the one that let them feel sorry for Grant and shake their heads at me. It's easier to believe gossip than to go looking for the truth. I learned that the hard way. I still went to work every single day. My patients needed me, and honestly, I needed them more. The clinic was the only place where I was still just Claire, the therapist who helped old Mr. Delgado walk again after his hip surgery, the one who made the frightened kids laugh before their exercises. There, I wasn't a cheater. There, I wasn't a liar. There, I was still someone. But the moment I left work, the weight came back. I would sit in my car in the parking lot and feel it press down on my chest until I could barely breathe. Some nights I drove past our old street, slowly, just to look at the house. The porch light was always on. I wondered if Grant left it on out of habit, or if some small part of him still expected me to come home. I never stopped once. I just looked, and I kept driving. Then something started scratching at the back of my mind. That question from the first night refused to go away. How did Diane know the cameras were off? She didn't live in the digital world. She could barely work her own phone. She called the television remote, the clicker. And yet she had known, instantly, casually, that the porch cameras had stopped recording. How? Unless she had turned them off herself. The thought made my hands shake. Because if she had turned them off, then she had planned this. It wasn't a mistake, or a misunderstanding, or an old woman's bad eyesight. It was a setup. She had known there would be no footage to catch her in the lie because she had made sure of it. But knowing something in your heart and proving it are 2 different worlds. I had no footage. I had no witness. I had nothing but a feeling, and a feeling can't clear your name. That's when Renee found me. Renee Ashford lived in the house directly across from ours. An older woman, sharp-eyed, the kind who noticed every car that came and went on our street. We had waved to each other for years but never really talked. So when I saw her name light up on my phone one evening, I almost didn't answer. "Claire, honey," she said, and her voice was gentle and careful. "I've been hearing things, ugly things, and I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me." I braced myself for another accusation. "Okay," I whispered. "This man they say was at your house. When are they saying he came?" I told her the day, the afternoon, somewhere between 1 and 4 while Grant was at work. There was a long pause on the other end. So long I thought the call had dropped. "Renee, Claire," she said slowly. "I was on my porch that entire afternoon, snapping beans for my supper. I had a clear view of your front door the whole time. And I want you to listen to me very carefully, because this matters." My heart started pounding so hard I could feel it in my throat. "There was no man," she said. "No gray car. Nobody came to your door that day except one person." I gripped the phone. "Who?" "A delivery driver," she said. "Young fella, brown uniform, dropped a package on the porch around 2 o'clock and left. That's it." That's the only soul who came near that house all afternoon. A delivery driver. Not a lover. Not a stranger sneaking out. A delivery driver dropping a package. A package Diane must have twisted into a tall man leaving our home. And Claire, Renee went on, and now her voice dropped lower. There's one more thing. That package. It wasn't addressed to you or Grant. I saw the driver check the name twice before he set it down. He said it out loud, almost to himself. He said, Diane Whitfield. I sat down hard on the edge of my bed. The room spun. The package had been hers. The man had come for her. And she had used him, an innocent stranger doing his job, as the fake proof to destroy my marriage. Renee, I said, my voice barely working. Do you have a camera? A doorbell? Anything? I've got one of those little doorbell cameras my grandson set up, she said. Points right across the street, toward your house. The whole world went silent. My hands were trembling so badly I nearly dropped the phone. How long? I whispered. Does it keep the recordings? Oh, a good while, Renee said. 60 days, my grandson tells me. Maybe more. It saves them up in that cloud thing. 60 days. It had been 3 weeks since that night. The footage was still there. Somewhere in that little camera across the street, there was a recording of that entire afternoon. An afternoon that would prove no man ever left my home. That would show a lone delivery driver dropping a package addressed to Diane herself. The truth had been sitting across the street the entire time, and I never knew it. Renee, I said, tears finally spilling down my face. The first tears I had let myself cry in weeks. I need you to keep that footage safe. Please, whatever you do, don't let it disappear. Honey, she said, and I could hear the steel in her voice now, the fury of a woman who could not stand a liar. I'm going to do better than that. I've already saved a copy. Because I've known Diane Whitfield for 20 years, and I have never once trusted that woman's smile. That night, for the first time since I left that house, I slept. Not because the pain was gone, but because a tiny light had finally cut through the dark. I had proof. Real proof. The kind that couldn't be argued with, couldn't be gossiped away, couldn't be silenced by a mother-in-law's tears. But proof is only powerful if the right people see it. And I knew Grant. I knew that showing him a video alone, in private, would never be enough. Diane would twist it. She would cry, she would deny, she would say it was edited, faked, taken out of order. I needed more than a screen. I needed a room. I needed witnesses. I needed the whole family gathered together, the same family that had turned their backs on me, watching the truth unfold with their own eyes so that no one, not one single person, could ever look away from it again. I picked up my phone and I started to plan. Took me 2 weeks to arrange that meeting. 2 weeks of careful phone calls, of asking Renee to be ready, of convincing Grant that we needed to sit down as a family and settle things once and for all. He agreed, I think, because part of him was tired too. Tired of the silence. Tired of sleeping in a house that no longer felt like a home. He didn't know what I was bringing. He thought I wanted to talk. He had no idea I was walking in with the truth in my hands. Before I tell you how it ended, let me ask you something, from my heart to yours. If the person you loved most in this world looked you in the eyes and chose someone else's lie over your truth, could you ever forgive them? Or would something inside you break that never fully heals again? I really want to know. Tell me in the comments below, and tell me where in the world you're watching from right now, because I read every single one, and it reminds me I'm not alone. Now let me take you into that room. It was a Sunday afternoon. Grant's living room, the one I used to decorate, was full of family. Paige was there with her husband, 2 of Grant's uncles, an aunt who had whispered about me at every gathering for years, and of course, Diane, sitting in the center of the couch like a queen on her throne, hands folded, chin high, wearing that soft, wounded expression she had perfected. When I walked in, the room went quiet. I felt every eye land on me, heavy with judgment. The cheater had come back. The liar had the nerve to show her face. I saw it in the way they looked away, the way Paige crossed her arms, the way Diane let out a small, tired sigh, as if my very presence pained her. I didn't say much at first. My heart was hammering. My mouth was dry, but I had Renee beside me, calm and steady as a stone. And in my bag was a small laptop with a single video file that was about to end everything. I asked you all here, I said, and my voice shook only a little. Because a few weeks ago I was accused of something terrible. I was called unfaithful. I was thrown out of my own home. And not one of you asked me if it was true. Diane's voice cut in immediately, sweet and sad. Claire, honey, we don't need to do this again. We all know what happened. Please don't make a scene. I'm not making a scene, I said. I'm showing you the truth. I opened the laptop. Renee had transferred the footage from her doorbell camera, clear and sharp and stamped with the date and time. And I turned that screen toward the room and I pressed play. First, there was nothing. Just our quiet street, our front door, an empty driveway in the afternoon sun. The timestamp ran in the corner. Ticking forward through the very afternoon, Diane swore a man had come and gone. 1 o'clock, nothing. 2 o'clock, and then a small brown truck pulled up. A young delivery driver stepped out, walked to the porch, set a package down, checked the label, and left. No tall man, no gray car, no lover slipping out the front door. Just a driver doing his job. Gone in under a minute. The room was dead silent. Everyone leaned in. That package, I said quietly, wasn't addressed to me, or to Grant. I paused. It was addressed to Diane. Every head turned toward her. But I wasn't finished, because Renee's camera had caught something else. Something I hadn't even known was there until we watched the full recording the night before. The footage kept rolling past the delivery into the early evening. And at 4:42, the camera captured the porch of our house again. And there was Diane stepping outside, reaching up under the eave, and with her own hand, turning the little camera on our porch until its lens pointed straight up at the roof. She had disabled our cameras herself. On video, caught in the exact moment, a gasp went through the room. One of the uncles stood up. Paige's hand flew to her mouth. That's why she knew they weren't working, I said, my voice growing stronger with every word. Because she turned them off herself, hours before she stood in that kitchen and told my husband a man had left our home. She made sure there'd be no proof. She just didn't know Renee's camera was watching from across the street. Diane's face had gone from calm to pale to something twisted and desperate. That video is fake, she stammered. It's edited. She's clever. This one? She's tricked you all. It has a timestamp from the security company's own system, Renee said flatly. My grandson already confirmed it hasn't been touched. You can call them yourself. And just like that, the throne collapsed. I turned to Grant. He was staring at the screen, his face white, his hands trembling on his knees. He looked like a man watching the ground disappear beneath him. Because he understood now. There had never been another man. There had never been a betrayal. The only person who had lied in that kitchen was the one he had chosen to believe without question. Mom, he said, and his voice cracked like a boy's. Why? Diane opened her mouth, but the excuses had run out. And when she finally spoke, the truth spilled out uglier than any of us expected. Because she took you from me? She hissed, all her sweetness gone. Ever since you married her, it was always Claire this, Claire that. I gave you my whole life and you gave it all to her. I just wanted my son back. The room was silent. There it was. Not a stranger. Not a man. Just a mother who could not bear to share her son. Willing to burn down his marriage to have him to herself again. Grant turned to me, and his eyes were full of tears. Claire, what have I done? What have I done to you? I looked at the man I had loved for 5 years, the man who had told me to leave my own home, the man who had said, how can my own mother be lying, while I stood there breaking? And I felt no joy in that moment, no triumph, only a deep, quiet ache. You believed her, I said softly. You didn't even check. You had a camera on your own porch and you chose her word over 5 years of mine. That's what I can't forget, Grant. Not the lie she told. The fact that you never once asked me for the truth. He begged me that day. He begged me for weeks after. He set boundaries with his mother he had never set in his life. Diane moved out, and for the first time he chose his own home over her voice. He did everything right, finally, far too late. And I forgave him. I want you to know that I did, eventually, because carrying hate only poisons the one who carries it. But forgiveness and trust are two different things. I did not move back in right away. I made him earn, slowly, over many months, the trust he had thrown away in a single evening. Because trust breaks in a moment, but it rebuilds only with time. Today, my life is my own. I still help my patients walk again. I built something steady and quiet and mine. Grant and I found our way back to each other, carefully, honestly, as two people who learned the hardest way what it costs to doubt the person you love. And Diane? She learned that a lie, no matter how well you hide it, has a way of walking right into the light. She spent so long making sure no camera would catch her, and she never once looked across the street. If there is one thing I want you to carry away from my story, it is this. When someone you love tells you their truth, believe them enough to look before you turn away. Because the people who deserve your trust are not the ones who shout the loudest. They are the ones still standing beside you when the whole world tells you not to. The truth may take time to find the light, but when it does, no lie is ever strong enough to stand in its way.